Right now, we got Mike Gill in the green room. Let's get the Mike Gill joining us right here on Birds 365. You can follow him at Mike Gill Show. Subscribe to his YouTube channel at Mike Gill Show and listen to him at 97.3 ESPN down the shore, 97.5 The Fanatic in Philly on the weekends. Mike, how you doing on this Wednesday morning, brother?
I'm doing all right, boys. We are counting down the days to the first preseason game. Isn't it great to have football back? You want to see preseason football for one night only.
Yeah.
Exactly, Mike. One night. It's like actually kind of like a quarter. You know, you watch a quarter and then you're like, all right, let's get to the.
Well, it's like the act of it coming back. You work up, and as soon as you see it, you're like, oh, make me unsee this. Get me to the real thing. There's actually a game tomorrow night, the Hall of Fame game tomorrow night. Which
that's even worse, Mike. You check in, you're excited. Football's back, and 4 minutes in, you're like, oh, not really. This is not really.
No, I just heard Zander, you say that you think some players will play in the preseason. Any of substance at all?
Well, I just think, think about the team is so much younger. You know, this is one of the youngest defenses in the league. The oldest defensive player, I think, is Zach Bond and Adoree Jackson. So it's like if you got all those guys that are below 26, I don't know. Does Moro Ojomo play? Does Makuba and Sidney both have a chance to play? Does Ringo play? These are guys that I think could actually play significant snaps in the season.
That's actually an interesting proposition. Vic said about a month ago when he spoke, this was a couple, early in the process, but that some of these battles might actually unfold during the preseason games. Something we really haven't seen during the Sirianni era is, hey, we have position battles. Someone's going to win them in preseason football. We haven't seen a whole heck of a lot of that. So do we see Adoree Jackson, a veteran player, taking preseason snaps with Kaylee Ringo? Do we see Makuba and Sidney Brown out there playing a half, series stuff? That will be kind of intriguing. Do Jahad Campbell, a guy who is coming off of an injury, to try to show him what the speed of the game
How about Jalyx Hunt, second-year player, didn't really play a lot of snaps last year, and they're relying on him to be basically a star or close to a star edge rusher to hold down the edge for this team. I could see him playing in preseason a little bit, but we'll see. That's why I said it, though. I think there is a chance at least.
Well,
offense, I don't think any of them are. I don't think any of them on offense are going to play.
Jalyx Hunt is the presumed starter. The two guys behind him are veteran players, Uche and Ojulari. Are they going to have to schlep rock out there and play preseason snaps to try to earn their way onto this team? It's kind of a reverse scenario. You usually have the vulnerable veteran guy in there, and then the two young guys are rotating behind him to try to earn their way onto the team. It's the opposite way with that position right now.
Yeah, there's no doubt defensively you're going to see a bunch of guys play because A, Vic believes in it, and B, they do have legitimate competitions. Offensively, there's no competitions. So they're going to be very cautious with the offensive players, I would imagine. And that'd be more the traditional. Maybe they play a series. Maybe they play 2 series and that's it. Defensively, you're going to see those guys because Kaylee Ringo's competing. Adoree Jackson's competing. You mentioned Aziz and Josh. Hey, they might not make the team. They got to show they have something to offer. Sidney Brown, obviously, Jahad Campbell, health will play into that because he's on a rep count. So it'll be interesting to see how they handle Jahad. But he needs to play. Trotter needs to play, who I think has had a very good camp. So all those guys.
There's nobody that has established themselves enough to not play, right?
Well, Zach Bond has. Those guys.
No, I'm talking about of the battles that you're talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Jackson. You could say Adoree Jackson has enough of a resume to say, but apparently Vic never really even saw him and didn't care about him all that much.
Yeah, you heard Vic's comments yesterday.
I want to get your thoughts, and we're gonna BLG later, and I want to get both your thoughts because Man, my antenna went up, Mike, on 2 occasions in that press conference. I don't know if you listened to the whole thing, but
I did.
the first part was when he talked about Cooper, and I was the one who asked the question, and I was asking, how's it going, playing safety and slot. And Vic said, I'd like to get him more reps at safety to test him more, but we haven't been able to work that out. And then the follow-up was, well, have you talked to Nick about it? And no. And I'm like, that's what practice is for. You can script stuff. Why can't you get a few more reps? So that was number one. I'm interested when Nick Sirianni talks again. I'm going to ask him that question, which won't be till next week. So I'm sure Bob Lang and company will prepare him by that point. But that was number one. Number two was Adoree. And what was the third one? There was a third one. You remember, Zander? There was a third. Oh, Howie. Howie's going to sign a player whether I went. Did you make? Is that summer? Am I making too much of that? That's a lot. That's a lot in one press. I call them big bombs now.
Yeah. Yeah. The fact that, the Adoree Jackson thing where he was like, I really didn't see him all that much. How he signs guys and then we just, get him here. Is that him saying, yeah, he signed this guy Hunt and then he gave him to me and Huff, and he wasn't any good. And Devin White he gave to me and he wasn't any good. So you can take it that way, I think, if you're putting all the pieces together.
Yeah.
The other one that I thought was interesting, he didn't really have – so we got asked about Jackson. He gave that expository. He got asked about Ringo and wasn't, glowing about Ringo. He got asked about Mac McWilliams and certainly went on a longer, description of his thoughts. I think Mac McWilliams is a guy that it seems that Vic likes and is, definitely intrigued by. So he would be a guy. That was one of the things that did stand out yesterday is he's going on and on about this Mac McWilliams for the second time now. He's kind of talked a lot about how smart he is and how much he's already kind of getting the system down. And that could be a sign that maybe he's frustrated with how, a guy like Ringo, maybe he's not picking it up as fast. And yet he's the one with all the tools. And yet here's this other guy who knows what he's doing. He's always in the proper spot. He didn't say hey, he did say he has a little ways to go and stuff. But I thought that also stood out. But you're right. Anytime Fangio speaks, it sounds like you're getting the truth serum.
Yeah. It's almost kind of shocking because it's so rare when you see that kind of stuff. Now, part of it is, I think, good-natured. Vic likes to drop the one-liners. He did it with the training staff when he was talking about Jihad Campbell the other day. So part of it's that, but there's a couple things in there when you're like, "Woo, this guy's feeling himself."
Now, why?
Well, he should, by the way.
Do you think it's strategically done that Petula doesn't have to speak during the week? They keep kind of missing him because there's the off day, and then they don't have him talk until the weekend. And I would imagine on the weekend there's not as much maybe media.
I think the strategy is more to keep Nick limited. Because I believe Michael Clay is talking.
So Nick talks on Monday, Vic on Tuesday, Wednesday they're off. Clay talks on Thursday. Fridays they're generally not doing anything. So then Petula's not talking till the weekend when there's not the same routines of hearing I guess maybe they're trying to get him.
Yeah, I think it has more to do with not getting the extra. By putting Michael in there, that would be Nick's day. Well, that would be Kevin's day, and then Nick would be Saturday.
Right.
Because
no offense to Michael, I think most people would rather hear from Kevin than Michael during the week. While you're commuting, listen to the Sports Bash. We air the press conferences of Vic and Nick, and if Kevin's was on, we probably would let the listeners in on that. Michael, no offense, we're not airing your press conference. I think
Michael, he'll air it. Yeah, Michael's now Kevin's a good communicator. I don't think they worry about that at all. I think that's more to do with it's a way to extend Nick's downtime. Not that he's a bad communicator. It's just he's got a lot to do.
I feel that Nick has gotten to the point of where he's like, I used to think this was kind of cool that I had to do this. Now I dread it.
I don't think he dreads it, but he doesn't. He'd prefer not to do it. I think that's every coach.
There are some people who are probably like, hey, this is kind of cool. People are asking me questions. I get to answer these questions. It's kind of neat. And then you're like, okay, I've done this, and it's not what I thought it was. Now I don't feel like doing it anymore because, yesterday, Monday, he gets asked a question. He said, I don't know who asked it. I think it was Jeff McMullen, maybe. He says, I feel like you ask me the same question every year.
It was Jeff.
He's on the car wash of questions. He knows what's coming.
Yeah. It was Jeff on Jalen Hunt's, Jalen Hurts and running the football, which we have asked him every year. So, there's a lot of redundancy, but to Nick often says, and actually got it from Connor Barwin, the burden of leadership is repetition. You have to repeat certain questions to get it through. But from the standpoint of, it's not about hiding people, it's about just lessening the load, I think. And you do have to work in Michael at some point. So they didn't do it week 1. They did it week 2. But I don't think it has anything to do. I think Kevin Patel, I don't know if he's going to be the best offensive coordinator, but as far as handling press conferences, he's number 1 by a mile in the Nick Sirianni era. So I don't think that's a problem at all.
And by the way, not that these things really matter a lot, but I do think people want some insight on the offense, what it might look like, what his thoughts are. There's not a lot of competition up here. We know Tyler Steen. It seems that they're not handling this the way they did. Now, Steen got hurt last year, which opened that whole can of worms up. If Steen never gets hurt last year, does Mekhi Becton get inserted in there and win that job? I don't know.
It's a good question. Probably not. Because, you can make an argument that Tyler has not been great this year, and he's taken every first team rep. Certainly Moro Ojomo, we were just talking about, his impactful camp has a lot to do. People need to pay more attention to the other side when guys are having big camps. And I brought up Nolan Smith. I don't know if you were listening by that point, Mike. There was the one day last week where he was kind of depressed, and he's a high energy guy. And he said he got 1% worse because he had a bad practice against Lane Johnson. Well, he's going against Lane Johnson. Moro looks like a bull in a china shop. He's going against Tyler Steen.
Now, yesterday, was it yesterday? Yeah, Tuesday was yesterday. I don't know what day it is half the time anymore. Fangio, wait a second. No, it was Monday. I think Jeff Mosher asked the question about the backup center. And I know that sounds like who the hell cares, but Landon Dickerson played center in the NFC Championship game. It seemed that Sirianni almost dismissed the fact that there was a backup center. Did you get that as well? That if they needed a center for 3 to 5 weeks, that Dickerson would move over and be the center, or is there someone else that would take that spot? And I ask that because obviously Juergens got hurt last year. He's coming back off of an injury, a back injury, which is something that not to sneeze about, and that they have enough guards that maybe they like that they would play someone else at left guard and move Dickerson over to center. That one caught my ear on Monday.
No, I think they're working to buy, and ultimately I think they want Drew Kendall to be the backup center. How quickly they get to that. But I do think there's a comfort of, and I always joke that the Eagles have a Pro Bowl center and he's not even their best center. Just Landon Dickerson's a better center than Cam Juergens. That's how good he is. So they have that comfort of, well, if it doesn't work, then we can just move Landon. But I don't think they want to, if they could find somebody to handle the backup position well. And they think,
because that goes into play with the right guard spot. I would imagine the loser of the right guard, if it's even a battle, but whoever the backup there is would be the swing guard and would be also the person that would play left guard. in the situation that Dickerson moved over to center. So that's what makes, even though it looks like Steen will win that job, who the next guy is could be an important factor, because quite frankly, Steen played a pretty decent amount of reps last year playing for Becton at times. He had to go started a playoff game at left guard.
Yeah. Yeah, and that'll be Matt Pryor, who can play.
Matt Pryor, okay.
Who can play 4 different positions.
Kenyon Green is not making any impact.
Not yet. He was hurt, missed a couple practices to start. Hasn't played any on the right side, has played strictly left guard. So we'll see if it ramps up at some point. And maybe the injury had something to do with it. But even if you go back to the spring, I think a lot of people were focused on what that competition at right guard was going to look like. It turns out it wasn't a competition, but like Matt Pryor took every second team snap at right guard, and that continues. And now they're sort of, so on the second team, it's Matt Pryor's been the right guard, Darian Kennard's been the right tackle. Now they're flipping those guys during practice to get Pryor snaps at right tackle as a backup and Kennard snaps at right guard to make him more versatile.
So what happens to all of the guys who got drafted last year, the Trevor Keegans of the world? Like, are they on thin ice because of the new draft class? Like, you keep them initially the first year, but then do they have to like earn their way on the second year? You can't keep them all, right?
Well, yeah, I think you have to earn your way on, but you can see positives with Keegan. They're giving him backup center reps, so they're trying to increase his versatility. So that indicates to me that they want to keep those guys. They want to keep Keegan. They want to keep Kennard. And to be a backup, you have to be versatile. So, excuse me. They're working with those guys to create that versatility. So it's a clear indication that Stoutland wants to keep working with them. With the rookies, Stoutland happened to talk yesterday. They love, and I mean love, the skill set of Miles Hinton. I've known that since the draft, but he's very raw. He's got to really up his technique and that kind of thing. Drew Kendall's going to be here as, they like him as a long-term center prospect. And Cam Williams has not played well. He's the one guy who he's in trouble. Now, it's Howie, so he's not going to cut him, but, he's the guy who might get the hangnail on the last week of training camp, and he goes to injured reserve, I would say. But they want to keep them all. They don't like cutting their draft picks. They do not like cutting.
Well, and that's why I wonder, if you were a draft pick last year, are you on thin? Because they signed a bunch of veteran players. Now they can get rid of the veteran players. What do you keep? 8 offensive linemen, 9?
Oh, they'll definitely keep 10. They might keep 11. Really? They might keep 11 because they have so many good offensive linemen that they want to work with. And that's their whole thing.
And I feel like the Eagles are in a situation where if they try to put an offensive lineman on the practice squad, if any team has half a brain, they try to take that guy. Hey, you work with the Eagles? Come over here. It's like if you were in Howie Roseman's front office. You just grab them and then say, hey, what do you know from Stoutland? Come on, give me the information. I want it.
Yeah. And that's what happened with Dylan McMahon last year. But, Keegan's the only guy, and they're, things are looking good for him.
Right.
Getting those center reps. They know he can play both guard positions. So the day 3 rookies this year, it's very unlikely, with the exception of Kendall, it's very unlikely that Hinton or Williams are going to be meaningful contributors this year, even if there were injuries. But they'll try to keep them around. No doubt about that.
Yeah.
So they're incredibly deep. They have 14 legitimate NFL offensive linemen on their roster. So they're going to have to cut some guys that could be on an NFL roster. But Mike, how many offensive line deficient teams there are in this league?
30.
And that more than anything else.
A lot.
Nobody talks about it because all the skill position players and all the great players the Eagles have, the number one strength of the Philadelphia Eagles year after year in this run has been the offensive line.
Well, it's funny because I'm 48 years old. Okay. So when I was growing up, it was really the end of the Jaworski to the Randall era. And
a lot different back then.
Their offensive line was an atrocity. They signed Ron Solt to just try to like, hey, we got a guy. And then he's, broke his foot or got popped with steroids or something. And,
he was
they were just constantly trying to draft linemen, Bernard Williams, Antoine Davis. I mean, just bustaroni. And then 1999 comes around. The drafting of Trey Thomas was the beginning of the change because Randy Moss was on the board and was available. And I think at that time, people would say, you got to take Randy Moss. You end up taking Trey Thomas, and they signed John Runyon. And from that point forward, the Eagles' offensive line has really been among the best in football. So it goes back to that Trey Thomas drafting when the shifting of the organization's mindset was obviously changing with Andy here, and it leads us up to 2025. 25 years later, they are still focusing on the offensive line, and other teams have not caught on.
Yeah.
Not on.
And, Chip Kelly's greatest impact on the Philadelphia Eagles was probably Jeff Stoutland.
Yeah. Jeff Stoutland, and they took Lane Johnson that first year when they had the fourth pick in the draft. Now, that year, I think three of the first four, I think Deion Jordan was 3. But the first 2 picks were both busts, both left tackles, Eric Fisher and Luke Jokel. I don't know why I remember this stuff. Something's wrong with me. And then Deion Jordan, and then Lane Johnson. You got one guy.
I will say Chip badly wanted Deion Jordan. Badly.
Guess what? He didn't get him. Someone else took him, and he went up with Lane Johnson. And that impact is still being felt in 2025.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Mike, 5 days.
By the way, Eric Fisher turned into a decent player for, not great, not even close. Lane's going to the Hall of Fame, but he wasn't a bust. He had a bad couple first and then turned into a pretty good player. But I digress. Yeah. Luke Jokel, bust. Yeah.
Bust.
Jokel, bust. Mike, 5 days into camp now. We've gotten some good updates from all the reporters who are down there. I know you talk to a bunch of them every single day on your show, 97.3 ESPN. What player has stuck out to you in a positive perspective, just from what you've heard? And then what player has stood out maybe in a negative perspective that's not quite doing what we wanted them to do in camp here through 5 days?
Well, I will say, every day at 4:00, we do football at 4, which Johnny Mack started with me years ago, and we still do that every day at 4:00. We talk football, and pretty much all the way through. Last week, every Friday, Sal Paolantonio comes on the show, and every day at 4:00, we do football with different reporters. Every single person has mentioned Ajoma. Without fail, that guy's name has come up every single time. And as you kind of pointed out, well, he's going up against Tyler Steen. Could that have some effect to it? So Morrow's name keeps coming up in every single conversation that is out there in terms of the positive side of things. I think the other positive right now would be that Jahad Campbell was on the field. I don't know that anybody said, whoa, this guy, you can see why they liked him. But the fact that he's out there practicing, most of the conversation has been he's going to have a role from possibly week 1. And one of the things we discussed, John, I think you were on with me Sunday morning up in Philly on 97.5, is once Campbell gets on the field, I can't imagine, unless he absolutely is a bust, I don't know how you take him off the field. And I don't know what that means for Nakobe Dean moving forward here. So the Campbell story, him being on the field from the first day and being able to practice, puts him way ahead of the game where you thought he might be. And what that will mean for week 1 and what that might mean 7-8 weeks in when Nakobe Dean's ready to come back, I would imagine he'll be on the PUP list to start the year. So we'll miss at least the first month, 4 weeks. And what does that mean for him? Where is he in the depth chart? Or, I mean, when Campbell's out on the field, you're hoping you don't have to take him off the field. You don't want to have a conversation of, oh, man, this was our first round pick, and this guy's just not getting it done.
Right.
So that's going to be an interesting story. Now, on the other side of things, I don't know that anybody said, yeah, this guy's really struggled, but I guess the opposite side corner with Ringo and Jackson, they both have kind of taken, I don't know that anybody has really stood out in that spot, but what I have said, and I think, you keep an eye on Mac McWilliams, if they can find someone that they like to handle the slot spot, could they possibly use Cooper DeJean in another role on the outside as well? I don't know if they've even tried that yet, if they've been using him outside. I know, John, you said they want to get him more safety snaps, but have they even looked at him on the outside yet either to say, hey, you know what? We can go with Mitchell and DeJean on the outside because we have this guy that we really like in the slot.
Yeah, not yet. They did that in the spring. They had Cooper playing outside corner, but in training camp, it's been all safety in the base for Cooper. Vic did say eventually it will happen where he gets some outside.
Yeah, I know he has said they would like to see, what that looks like. It hasn't happened yet, but I think if you get more and more Mac McWilliams practice and you start to be more and more intrigued, can I let the rope a little longer by moving you to the outside and see how he handles this? That would be something I would keep an eye on. But I think all eyes right now in terms of, I don't want to say negative, but where nothing has really been established would be at the corner, Ringo Jackson spot. Who's really grabbing that one? And I guess to some extent the safety spot too. Yesterday, Vic did make an interesting point of that Sidney Brown last year, he was out there and back, but he couldn't really, do what we're asking to do now. So he was never a factor in his return last year because people wondered when there was a safety situation, you kept seeing Tristan McCollum last year, not Sidney Brown. And now you're finding out why. He just was not really even an option for them when he returned.
If people listen to me, Mike, they would have known. I've said that a million times till I banged my head off the wall. The guy had a second surgery, wasn't healthy, but now I'm glad Vic confirmed it because, but Zander can tell you, I said that a million and 100 times over.
Like, I'm a little concerned on Makuba, dude. 3 days ago, I mean, look, we're supposed to expect this guy to be a starter for 20 games in a year where this team has Super Bowl aspirations, and I think is legitimately in the conversation, not pie in the sky thinking. This guy lasted 3 days at camp. Am I supposed to really go into a season expecting that rookie player to play 20 games? I don't know. I got some concern on Makuba. Now, not long-term. I'm talking about right now. I'm talking about this season right here. Not 3 years, not 2 years, not 4 years, none of that stuff.
Well, and one of the things I think we discussed last week, the days are all running together now, but is whether or not he can run down the field with these bigger tight ends and the physicality of all that as well. That was one of the things. Hey, when you fall to the second round, there's a reason. He's a smaller guy at that position. I think there's definitely, I asked the same question, and I got people that listen to the show, and then they remember every little detail of things you say when it's different from what they say. And I said last year, look, I don't know what Nolan Smith is going to be. I mean, at this point, he had been coming off a year where he did nothing as a rookie. For half the season last year, Nolan Smith really was not remarkable. And then from November on, he was really, really good. You just said he was frustrated because he's going up against Lane Johnson. Well, the one concern that I expressed about Nolan Smith is his size. Can he hold up over 17 games playing at the level that he played that got everybody excited, right? I mean, he's a guy who is a smaller guy, which is why he falls down into the draft for some people. Can he hold up for 17 weeks, banging into these tackles, trying to get to the quarterback? He had an awesome run, but can you expect that for a 17-game run? Now, listen, no defensive edge rusher is for 17 weeks going to wreck games. I mean, there's a week where you just, hey, you did a great job, had a great game plan against that guy. But if teams are game planning for Nolan Smith because he's the best pass rusher you have, is he going to be able to be as impactful as he was during that playoff run? So that's another thing that, as John just kind of mentions, he was frustrated because he's going up against Lane Johnson. Well, guess what? A lot of tackles in this league teams are going to be looking, where is he at? I got to find this guy. Oh, there he is. He's the guy who's been getting to the quarterback. We got to figure out ways to stop him from doing that because right now he's the main guy as opposed to, you had Josh Sweat last year. You obviously have Jalen Carter in the middle. When Milton Williams on the field, you got to figure out where all these guys are. You take a couple of those pieces away, you go higher up the chart of, hey, where are you on the field?
Yeah, I agree. I brought that up a couple of times. I'm glad you brought that up, Mike. I think people are skipping way over that. Like to your point, guys were worried about Jalen Carter, Milton Williams, Josh Sweat. That's who they're game planning for, not Nolan Smith.
Right.
And this year it's going to be completely different with Nolan, Jalyx, and Morrow. It's still going to be Jalen Carter, obviously number one, but then they're going to pay a lot of attention to Nolan Smith and a lot of attention to either one or the two, probably, depending on who's playing better. Certainly, early in camp, it's been Morrow, and that creates a bigger stress if nobody's paying attention to you. It's like Jahan Dotson is a third receiver. Guy never sees a double team in his life. Well, when he was in Penn State, he saw it all the time. When he was in Washington as the 16th pick, he saw it all the time. Now he doesn't see it.
Right.
It's like Shangri-La. Well, that's like it was for Nolan Smith last season, and it will not be this season. So that is a very good point.
As we keep hearing about Jalyx Hunt, he has been obviously a guy who everybody's comparing to almost like he's Lawrence Taylor or something. But what I will say is, for whatever reason, the thought crossed my mind of, look, they found Jordan Mailata in the 7th round just because of his sheer freakish athletic size, strength, speed, and said, hey, let's just get him into our camp, see what we can do with him. Now, to take a guy in the 3rd, but I said, if this guy really is what everybody is discussing, what an unbelievable story that would be. A guy who probably, I don't know how many teams had him on their draft board in the 3rd round, but was essentially playing safety in the Ivy League 3 or 4 years ago, and is now being discussed as possibly a game-changing pass rusher. I mean, this would be the story of what the Eagles have on the offensive side of the ball now flipping over the defense. Not to quite the same extent with Australian Rails football and all that stuff, but just a guy with the impact that nobody would have predicted.
Well, yeah, I agree with that, but we started this conversation with Vic Bombs, as I like to call him now, when Vic Fangio says stuff at press conferences. When he was told about the comparisons for Jalyx Hunt, boy, you talk about throwing cold water. He was like, did you laugh? He asked us reporters, did you laugh? When the Micah comparison was brought up, and basically he wasn't trying to insult his guy. He's saying that's not fair. So I do think there is this incredible hype, and it's going to be tough to live up to that expectation, but I think he's got a chance to be a good player. And people kind of forget, you bring up Jordan Mailata. Now that is a whole different ballgame because Jordan Mailata had never put on a football helmet,
right.
Growing up in Australia playing rugby. So that was truly ground zero. And Stoutland talks about it all the time. The positive part of that was he didn't have a bunch of shitty coaching. He didn't have any bad habits. He didn't know how to play at all. So you could build him up from ground one. Jalyx Hunt is been playing football all his life. As you mentioned, he was a late bloomer from a physical standpoint, playing safety at Cornell, turns into an edge rusher, a little bit different, but I hear what you're saying as far as the developmental aspect of it.
Right. Well, the fact that you took a guy who essentially has no experience at that 1 year of Division I experience at the position you are now playing him at.
Yeah. That bad coaching and bad habits thing that Stoutland was talking about, that's a big deal. And I think that's what sets Jordan Mailata apart. The fact that you got this freak from an athletic standpoint, and just size, and you're not supposed to move like Jordan Mailata moves when you're that big and strong. And they didn't have to break any of the bad habits. I think that's a big part of his story.
Yeah, I agree, John.
Yeah.
I always wonder when they took Mailata, now his 6'8" frame and stuff would say left tackle, but his size, speed, and ability to run and move, I always said, I would love to have seen them play him at defensive tackle and just see if anybody could block him.
Yeah, he'd probably be good.
The one problem with him being a defensive tackle is similar to
it's hard to get your hands low.
And Nick talked about, hey, he's 6'6", he's got to get down to 6'2", which means, but I think that Mailata could get the explosion to come up and just, it would almost be like a movie watching him just move people up and out of the way with Mailata.
Yeah. They made the right decision, though. If you're 6'8",
yeah, ultimately, what's more important, the left tackle or a defensive tackle in today's game?
Ooh, probably left tackle.
Yeah, they're both very important, but just from the
I mean, those are the two cornerstones of each side of the ball.
Yeah,
you see defensive tackles, change games now with the interior pressure. But obviously, the left tackle has always kind of been the staple of, when you see people drafted number 1 overall, left tackles are in that conversation, probably more than a defensive.
Yeah, we
tackle.
just mentioned one, Eric Fisher back in the day.
Yeah,
just mentioned one.
Yep.
At Mike Gill Show. Make sure you follow Mike on the X platform and his YouTube page at Mike Gill Show as well. Hear him 97.3, the Sports Bash, ESPN South Jersey during the week. 97.5, the Fanatic on the weekends. The best in the biz as far as I'm concerned. Following the Super Bowl champions. Who's better, the Super Bowl champions or Mike Gill? Zander, who's better?
Mike Gill, maybe. Are you kidding me? Comes in here every week, delivers the goods for Birds 365. It's a no-brainer.
I'll be in Wildwood today.
All right.
Wildwood today at Yuri's. We have the Lombardi Trophy with us. We are
again?
Every Wednesday Phillies day game. We're doing watch parties at Yuri's, and we're bringing the trophy with us, so you can come down.
When do the Phillies play today? Are they a day game?
Phillies play the White Sox 2:10 first pitch. So our show will be live. The Phillies game will be live.
You're lucky. They've been showing off the Lombardi trophies at training camp. The fans can take pictures with them.
Yep. We have every Wednesday when the Phillies play a day game. So we have today and then 2 more in August. Next week, the 6th, and I think there's another one on the 20th. So you have a couple more chances, and then we have a couple more spots where we've been going with the trophy. And then, we're going to be into a football season where I'm out Mondays, Thursdays, all the time.
All right, we'll say hello to the glove guy again. He's busy. He's busier.
Yeah, that's who transports it everywhere, right? That guy?
The glove guy, right, exactly.
Yeah, the glove guy. Good stuff. Mike, thanks for joining today, brother. We appreciate it, man. We'll catch up with you next week. Have a good show today for the watch party for the Phils.
All right, see you.
All right.
Thanks, Mike.
There's Mike joining us here on Birds 365. Great stuff from Mike Gill here on the show. Appreciate Mike checking in today. We got a couple